Hello, everyone. Say hello back. Hello. My name is Harmony Matos, and I am the program administrator in Student and Alumni Affairs. So we just want to welcome you. Thank you for coming out in the rain to attend this wonderful panel today. The topic today is Private Practice 101. So it's definitely something that's going to be very informative and beneficial for you. I'm going to hand it over to our wonderful intern, Nick. There is one adjustment to the program that you see, that we were supposed to have another moderator who fell ill recently. So Nick is wonderful and amazing and volunteered to moderate this panel. So I'll allow him to introduce himself and then also introduce our 4 panelists that's going to help you today.
Yeah, so thanks, Harmony. As she mentioned, my name's Nick. I am the intern here for higher education and student development in the Student Affairs office at Silver. So I'll be the moderator today. I'm going to have the panelists here introduce themselves. Today's topic, as Harmony mentioned, is Practice 101. So they'll be talking a little bit about their experience as a practitioner and a little bit about their careers. So if you don't mind just going down the line and introducing your name and a little bit about yourself.
You allowed to read this?
Sure, if you want to.
That's good.
I'm okay with
that. My name is Bert Morgan. Nice to be here. I was a 1980 graduate from here, so I've been around a long time. A lot of experience, but I've been around a long time. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I recently retired from Dutchess County Department of Mental Hygiene after 26 years working there. My last position was assisted outpatient treatment coordinator, which was the mandated outpatient treatment that was put into law by Governor Pataki. Very, very interesting type of working. I've been direct practice, supervisory, administrative, blah, 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 but I won't go through all those different things. One of the things that I did that was different was our county had a trauma team, and we would go out for disasters in the community, some really awful things. We went out to a hostage situation at a high school, been out to families with losing a child in a car accident, just some really, really difficult situations. And we did what was critical incident stress debriefing. So I really, really liked that work. And it was something kind of unique at that point. I've been a field instructor for NYU, Columbia, Fordham, Adelphi.
Wow.
Yeah. Doing this a long time. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome,
I think it's great.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So hi, I'm Rachel Moiban Wachtel, and I graduated NYU School of Social Work, loved it here. And I have a private practice right up the block, and my specialties are anxiety, and I do a lot of couples work. I have another dimension to my practice where I do a lot of corporate work, and I do a lot of on-site counseling, consulting, counseling, and mostly around trauma and grief. So that's the other dimension. And then I also have one other thing I do, which is I help practitioners build their practice. So I do a lot of mastermind groups too. That's me.
Awesome, thanks.
I'm Antonieta Contreras. I just graduated on 11th a few years ago, but I was certain that I wanted to be in private practice, so I've been training. So I have a specialization in trauma. I'm also a sex therapist. I'm board certified neurotherapy clinician. And yeah, I like training, and I am part now of the faculty at ICP, the Institute of Contemporary Psychotherapies, and also member of the training committee running the institute.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Kristen O'Rourke. I graduated from NYU in 2005. It took me some time to decide to go into private practice. So I've been in private practice for the last 4 years, but before that I was a school social worker, and I worked in a hospital setting for a little while. But I started my private practice 4 years ago. It's called In-Home LCSW. It's a group practice, and we work with children and families in Rockland, Westchester, and Bergen counties. And it's not the traditional office setting. We actually go to children's homes and provide our counseling services there in their home and work with the entire family. So it's myself, and I have 6 other social workers that work with me, and they kind of all work together and provide services for the families in our community.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So now that we know a little bit about our panelists here, can you each, this doesn't have to go in order, whatever you feel comfortable with, but I'd like you each to kind of just talk about your path to clinical social work, how you came to the decision to do what you do, and a little bit maybe about how you decided to become a private practitioner. Anyone who wants to start.
Who wants to start?
I'll start. When I was going to NYU, I knew that I wanted to. I chose NYU because it was a clinical program, and I knew that I eventually wanted to do clinical work. But I was 22 when I came here, and I didn't feel like it was time. So I wanted to gain knowledge and experience. So I knew I wanted to work with children though. So I did, my internship was in a school while I was here, and I encourage you to do that if you're interested in working with children and families, to do an internship in a school. And I really enjoyed that, but I knew eventually I wanted to get into private practice. So I just felt like it was really important to work in different settings. I worked in a mental health clinic, I worked in a hospital, I worked in a school, and I really felt like, once I gained experience in working with in all different areas, that it was time for me to start the practice. And when I think that jumping right into it isn't always the best choice, and it wasn't for me, and so I wanted to gain some knowledge first and then start the practice.
Awesome.
So I was not 22. And I knew that I wanted to be in private practice. So I immediately, my 2 internships were not clinical. I worked for ACS first, and then I worked in the psych ER in Bronx City Hospital. That was an amazing opportunity to learn so much, but I didn't give therapy to anyone, right? So after I finished, I went into Gestalt, training into Gestalt therapy, and that place was the one I was able to practice with my colleagues. That was my first experience. And then I decided to make my hours in clinics instead of institutes, just to get the real experience. So I work in Harlem for several clinics, and I got my hours there. So I got the training in both, in the real world and in the institutes, that I needed to feel confident in going into private practice. So that was a little bit of the path.
Okay, should I go? Yeah, okay. So about 80 years ago, no, many years ago. No, for me, actually this, I feel, was a calling when I was a teenager, but I, like Kristen, was very careful. I had some business background before I came to graduate school at NYU, so I did a lot of different things. I was a makeup artist, I was working in a bank, so I did all these different things, and then I came to school. I graduated when I was 28 years old. So I wasn't, I wanted to make sure, because when you go into private practice, you really have to, you're running a business, you have to know that you love what you're doing. So I wanted to make sure this was actually what I really loved. And that's why I love the whole internship idea, because you get to see, do I like this? I was able to work with the chronic mentally ill. I was able to work with children in a school setting. So I got a lot of really, a nice variety. And then my first job was actually, I don't know if anybody's familiar, but I worked at a settlement house on the Lower East Side, Grand Street Settlement. Those days, it was a wonderful place to learn. And actually, I got very lucky because one of my actual supervisor was an NYU professor. So it was like jackpot. And I got to actually develop my own parent and child therapy program in English and Spanish down there. So it was wonderful because my supervisor would say to me, okay, I want you to teach all the children in this settlement house how child sexual abuse prevention. So I was able to do that, and I was able to just do therapy and work with parents and children. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And then slowly I started to say, I really love this, and I want to do private practice.
Awesome.
And I eased my way in 19 years ago.
Thanks.
I came to be interested through my own experiences, my own life experiences, and seeing a wonderful licensed social worker who really helped me make a lot of important changes. And I tried to do some social work kind of jobs. I was a child care worker, I was a union steward, so I did advocacy and crisis intervention and those kinds of things. But that was really where I started, and she had gone to NYU, so I applied to NYU. I heard a lot about the program during that time, and I thought the professors were wonderful. It was kind of a funny point, 1980. It was pretty much, they had professors who'd been here so long who weren't going to be able to continue because they hadn't gotten their PhDs, and I was thinking, what a loss. Just terrible for them to go, but many of them had been through agencies like Jewish Board of Children and Family Services, just so much experience, and very traditional, ego psychology, the Blanks Institute, all that kind of background. So at any rate, that combination of things. I went to an undergraduate program in Westchester, Mercy College, where I got a BSW. And NYU took me for the advanced standing. They said, go for one summer course and you can go into the second year. So I said, I'm on that. They still have it, advanced standing?
They do, yes.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
I did not do that. But
Yeah. And I had a nice experience in terms of counsel and social work education, was doing their initial accreditation with the class I was graduating from in '79. So I got to see that whole part of it too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's thank you so much for sharing, because it's really great for us as students to see such diverse backgrounds in alumni, and also to hear about different experiences and how you ultimately end up where you are now. Which actually brings us to the next question. So for us who are actually interested in private practice, what experiences, licenses, or courses do you think are required or recommended in order to gain the experience needed to become a professional in private practice? And that's, anyone can answer.
I think having field placements in mental health settings is so important, and the supervision you get during that time. I had gone to Mount Vernon Neighborhood Health Center was my first placement, and Huguenot Center for Harlem Valley Psychiatric Center was my second year placement. Worlds of difference between what I was learning in the classroom and what I was learning in the field.
Really?
Oh, major differences.
How so? Like, can you?
How many different ways? I think a lot of it was more task-centered, and it certainly was, you had to be understanding the community, you need to be able to engage a wide range of people. In both instances, there was actually a clinic for the north side of those cities and the south side, and it was income. So it was both in Mount Vernon and New Rochelle, I was working with the more underprivileged minorities and learning a great deal.
Mhm.
learning a great deal. I think public agency practice is so important. I think a commitment to the client served is so important.
Mhm.
Over the years of my private practice, I have gotten on all these insurance panels, and I do manage Medicaid, manage Medicare, which are difficult, and I just feel that's kind of an obligation. I have to do at least some of that because people are desperate to get services.
Mhm.
Uninsured, unemployed, so many people in tough spots. So that's been my thing.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think that, can you repeat the question, please?
Just basically like what experiences, if there are any courses that you think should be required to become a private practice.
Specifically private practice.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to focus on clinical internships. I had one non-clinical internship and one school internship. My first was at HRA, and it wasn't super clinical. I think that it's really important to expose yourself to all different settings and see what you're interested in, and then focus in on classes that focus on topics that you're interested in. I also think that after you graduate, looking into different settings and just getting as much experience with different populations as you can to see what your true passion is. And I really learned through my experience that I really loved working with children and families, and so that's why I decided to focus my practice on that. You obviously have to be a licensed, an LMSW or an LCSW, then to have a private practice. I waited until I was an LCSW. It's all about, when you feel ready. And I think that I didn't realize, something that I think is helpful to know is I didn't realize how much a private practice is a business and not only just clinical treatment. And so if I could go back, I might take some courses or workshops in business. There's a lot of administrative work in running a practice that I just kind of envisioned like, oh, I'm just going to treat and it's going to be great and we're going to do sessions, but there's a lot more to it. And there's, especially if you want to accept insurance and the billing and the scheduling and the treatment notes and all of that comes with it. So it might be helpful for you to look into some sort of business training as well.
That's really good advice.
I want to add to that too. Will you? Yeah, okay. So I think that what Bert and Kristen are saying are really important, but I'm going to add something to it, and that is, I think personally, if you're going to do this work, especially if you're going to go into private practice, you need to do your own work and your own therapy and really know what it's like to be the patient, to be the client. And if you are going to be doing this work, you are constantly, especially earlier in your career, the whole idea of countertransference, it's not a joke. Countertransference is there and it happens and you're going to get triggered, and you just want to always recenter and understand, okay, what is going on for me right now? What am I, and always practicing self-care. We're teaching our clients how to take care of themselves, how to be healthy inside. We have to model that and constantly be practicing that. So I would say that is fundamental to going into private practice.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything to add?
So I remember that there were not enough electives for learning how to do therapy to my needs, right?
At Silver, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
at Silver. I wanted more. And I learned that, thanks God, we cannot go into private practice immediately. We need 3 years of supervised practice in order to think about it. So those 3 years are the ones that are going to form the therapist. So yes, I agree that it's very important if you want to go to private practice to have an internship where you start doing it and have supervision. Unfortunately, not everybody gets it. The other way to go into private practice is through institutes, like going, or there is a post-grad courses here Yeah, and so this is an endless career. You need to be learning all the time different things. It's endless. This is you almost at the beginning earn the money to just pay for your courses.
It's true.
It is true. So be open to that type of life. But it's exciting because we never end learning. We always discover new things about the brain and the mind and the nervous system now with the neuroscience. And so be patient and be focused. Be focused because yes, you cannot do like a community organizing and a private practice and maybe some policy. No, you have to really choose where are you going to go.
Because it's such a broad profession.
Yes, exactly.
Social work.
Yeah.
So now that we know a little bit about your path and how you got to where you are, would you kindly share some of the challenges, if you can recall, from when you first started out as a professional in clinical social work and how you overcame them? So what the challenges were and then how you kind of surpassed them.
I think the points that you brought up about dealing with your own stuff is so important, and you have a supervisor you can talk to about why you're reacting in a certain way and have that kind of support and understanding. It's funny, you know, coming to NYU, it was all clinical social work. That's what I heard. The first course I had to take was institutional racism. It was a wonderful course. It was Sherman Barr taught it, and he was fabulous. He's since passed away. But it was like, oh, wow, this is part of social work, too, is dealing with racism. And
now it's called DROP, and it stands for diversity, racism, oppression, and privilege. Yeah.
There's no ethnocultural issues? Or is that another class? No?
It'd be a separate class.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a
maybe an
separate-
elective or something.
Oh,
right?
okay.
when Sherman was teaching the class, he says, well, I used to have FBI agents in the audience listening to what I was saying to the students here.
Wow.
And it was kind of, oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that's the
Other
future.
challenges of this population, homeless, mentally ill, people who've only gotten services through state hospitals or jails, so afraid of engaging. In that last job I had, that was a lot of that. People who were dangerous to themselves or others that kept refusing treatment. So it was a whole thing of reaching out, trying to see if they would accept any treatment, and eventually going to court and having a judge order it. The only thing that really would happen if they didn't follow it was they could be hospitalized if they met criteria. But we're trying to do a preventive kind of thing. And the issues of homelessness and joblessness and drug addiction, the opioid epidemic, are all major.
Very pervasive, yeah. How about anybody else? Any challenges?
Go ahead.
Well, for me, the most significant was to have to serve that population and not having the skills. And on top of that, not having good supervision. Because in the agencies where you work to treat that population, supervision is really not that amazing because everybody is working in the same type of. And that is hard when you don't have supervision. So I hired my own supervisor. It didn't count in the hours, but just to have the confidence and some understanding of what I was doing. And then I started training because I also didn't know how to help them. That was the challenge, not having the skills. When you get out of here and start giving therapy, you really don't know what to do. So,
Yeah.
Scary.
be aware of that, yes.
So I'll just, so yes, and then the other thing is, once you know, I really want to do this, then you have to, and I think you mentioned this, Kristen, you have to really know how to run a business. And that was the most challenging for me because here I was, and I knew so much and I had so much to share. And then you think, okay, well, where are the clients and why is this a no-show? And oh my God, you get all freaked out, like this one cancels, this one, so really learning how to manage a business and dealing with ebbs and flows in your practice. I have colleagues today, they've been in the business for years, they're brilliant clinicians, and a lot of times their practices are very slow because they don't have the business side to it, and that's why I love teaching that end too, helping practitioners build their practice, because it is so hard to do. And again, you're running a business, so you have to keep that in mind and take business courses and really be. And what's nice about your generation is you have so much online now that you can access. When I was, in private practitioner groups learning how to grow my practice, it was like, do you have your business card? And today it's like, do you have a website? It's much more technologically advanced. So,
I can add one thing to that. I one of the biggest challenges for me was, first of all, my age. I think that when I started, I wasn't, at the beginning of my career, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, so people kind of looked at me like, how can you help me? Because you haven't had this life experience that I've had. But, I think even though now I am married and I do have kids, like, still my experience is different from somebody else. So it's just being confident in myself. It took time for me to get to that point, and helping other people understand that everybody's life experience is different, so we don't necessarily have to have been through the same things to be able to support somebody. Also, getting my private practice started is challenging. At first you have to figure out a way to connect with people and get the word out there, but we are in a day and age where we can utilize social media, and so I encourage you to, when you are starting that, to really use that. And I also, I'm on various different platforms, like I have a website and I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but I also, at first was offering, like, I would call up schools and say, I'm doing free workshops. I'll come in and do a free workshop for your families, and that would just give me free advertisement, and I would run workshops for very little, barely, any money to get people in. So I networked like crazy. I would call different agencies and finding people that can help you and you can help them. So I'm a child therapist, but most children have parents who need a therapist. So then I would contact the adult therapists in the community, and so now we refer to each other, and just networking and finding ways that you can help support one another in the community is really helpful to get the word out and get the ball rolling when you're first starting.
Yeah, that's actually a good segue into a couple of questions that I have. One of them is kind of like what your day-to-day is like how much time do you spend managing your practice versus other parts of your life?
So adding to what you just said, one of the challenges when you start your private practice is loneliness. It's a very lonely profession when you start private practice. You want to have a lot of clients, and then you end up the day and you are like almost invisible. So I think part of what is important to take care of yourself is to have community, to belong to some type of group. That is very important. So, for example, that now that I am a faculty, I'm part of the training committee at ICP. That's my community. We organize workshops. We get together to organize the institute. I teach, I prepare. So it's something else. Somebody that is only in private practice full time every day is going to be burnt out very soon. So community.
Anybody else?
To answer this question that you asked.
Yeah.
Okay. You said day to day, and
like
what do
kind
you?
of like how you manage your
time. I feel like when you're in private practice, you're always working. Always working, and you definitely have time for play, but for me, I'm always networking. I'm always meeting, building relationships. I have my people that refer to me, I refer to them. I love meeting with them. They feel safe with me, I feel safe with them. So you're always working. You're always doing something for your business. But I know, if I was in your place, I'd be like, oh, but it's fun. You make it fun and you make it interesting. And again, you have to always be mindful of, there are going to be slow times in my practice. What are some new creative ways? Maybe I want to rebrand myself, okay? So I decided I like working with couples, and now I want to focus more on working with people who suffer from panic attacks. Mm-hmm. So now I want to rebrand myself. So, then there's more work there. How do I, tweak my website? How do I add specialty pages? How do I do all these things that are new, technologically advanced, that I can promote myself? Going into different places and, connecting with people who will first go to them before they come to me, right? So again, the networking piece, but really fine-tuning it. So there's a lot to do. You're always busy, but it's again, wonderful work, because it's all about, maintaining and managing your private practice.
I think those were very good points. Rachel brought up, you really are on call all the time. I mean, you can get calls anytime that you have to respond to. And when you're screening new referrals, you really have to determine, okay, is this somebody I can see on an outpatient basis once a week who's not going to need daily contact? That can be real. And also how acute things are, which you can never totally get down, but then you can end up with a person in your office who's saying, I'm going to go out and kill myself now, and you have to deal with it. It's tough, It's a very serious commitment. I think one of the most critical things is really learning to be an active listener, to really let somebody know with eye contact that you're listening, that you're hearing what they're saying. I think an early kind of thing is wanting to talk too much to fix the problem, and a lot of times the biggest gift is to listen and really hear what somebody's saying. And it's not necessarily something you get in coursework, it's when you're working.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add, or?
I mean, yeah, I work at night. I work with kids, so I work in the evening, in the late afternoon and evening, and I have 2 small kids, so I'm home with them during the day. That's when I do the non-clinical work of my practice. So it did become too much for me to manage on my own, so I did hire somebody. I think it's really important to take care of yourself, and the practice grew quickly, and I hired people, and so I really needed to find a good balance. So I decided to treat less and do more of the networking and the workshops and that sort of thing during the day. So I'm currently trying to find a good balance between I love treating. I love it. So I can't give that up. I won't just be a business owner. I have to do both. So I have to find a good balance. So I'm trying to be home more at night for my kids. My daughter just started kindergarten, and it worked really well when they were home and I was a stay-at-home mom during the day, and then I went out and worked at night. But now she's in kindergarten, and now I see her for like an hour a day. So it's constantly changing, and I'm constantly trying to, balance everything. So, that can be a challenge.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of work. Hopefully you all get to have some fun.
I feel like we're making it sound really daunting, but I like it. I love it.
I love it too. I love it.
I love it
It's
too.
great. I just
Perfect
don't
career.
think, I think what we're all trying to, or at least what I'm trying to say is it's some serious work, and you have to be ready. It's sounds so great, private practice, it's great. But you have to be ready in so many ways for it, and don't just jump right into it. Make sure because you are by yourself. Now I'm in a group practice, which I love, because I'm not the type of person that works well alone. I like to have people around to talk with, but there are some serious issues that can pop up, and you have to be able to manage them, and so you really have to feel ready. And so I just would encourage you guys to keep that in mind when you're thinking about starting one.
Yeah, no, I mean, this advice is actually all very helpful.
I just want to say one thing, because we're talking about a lot of the challenges, but the beauty of doing private practice is you get to decide how you want your private practice to look like. For me, I was full-time from 2004 full-time, and then I decided, you know what, I want to do more corporate work. So then I went 3 days a week. Then I decided, you know what, I want to expand my practice. Like, I decide, and I'm in control of how I manage my practice, and that's the beauty of it. I want to see more couples, and so I'm going to brand myself towards networking in that way, or I want to do more of this. But it's also, I have a friend therapist. She sees clients from 7 in the morning till 5 o'clock every single day. 5 o'clock, she's done. For me, I always saw clients, everybody's coming home from work, I'm going to work. Right. But it's good for me because I'm a night person. So I go to work, sometimes I'll have a sprinkle in the morning or afternoon, and my day starts at 5 to 10. But I love that. So it's what you love, you're going to design for yourselves, and that's the beauty. So you have to really be centered and focus on what is it that I want, and what do I want my life to look like with my private practice.
Yeah, I was going to save that question till the end.
Sorry.
But
Oh my
no,
God.
I mean, it's not even on my sheet, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, just some of the things you most enjoy about having a private practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add that because
And if anybody else has anything to add to that.
Well, to that, something that we haven't mentioned is that many people start their private practices at the end of their regular job, like having 2 to 4, 5 clients in the evenings, so they don't run the risk of not getting clients. Because when you decide you rent you were mentioning, right? I was not ready to rent a place. When you start paying rent and clients don't come, that can be scary, right? So many people start little by little, 1, 2, 3 clients, and then when they are ready and people are coming, then they start one day, they rent an office for a whole Friday, for example, things like that. So it doesn't need to be immediate.
Did you have anything to add? I thought you had something to say, but maybe I was
probably
wrong.
did, and it went out.
A lot of different questions here.
But yes, it's a wonderful career, and I love the flexibility of being able to work out your hours and stuff. One way of initially getting referrals is evenings and Saturdays. If you offer that, you're going to draw a lot of people who can't take time off of work. That's what I found with a lot of people. They just can't take time off.
Personally, I like that it allows me to be a mom, a stay-at-home mom, and also provide for my family. So I have both. That was really important to me. I didn't want to give up my career, but I also wanted to be there for my kids. So it's a very flexible thing. You're your own boss. You make your own money, and when you're your own boss, you're very motivated and determined. And so, but I think that it can be very lucrative too. I mean, you work as much as you want or as little as you want, and so I find the work very rewarding. I really love it. It's really perfect for my lifestyle and for my family, and so it's been a really great thing that has developed for me.
Awesome. So we have some time left, but I actually wanted to see if members of our audience actually had any questions. So maybe we could take some questions before I ask any more. Sick of hearing my voice. So does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
I have a question about, so NYU started and is still a clinical program in many ways, but there's also a lot more incorporation of things like drop and of social justice and commitment to the profession. So I know at the beginning you get a lot of agency work, or it's good to get experience by getting your C and a lot of these things, but I'm wondering, once you make the leap into private practice, how you can incorporate, I know I heard you mention you have to choose between policy, community organizing, and clinical work, but I imagine there are ways to make the private practice a little bit more social justice conscious, and some of that might be the Medicaid and Medicare. I'm curious about other ways of how you
So there is a website called Open Path that max that you can charge is $50. So I always have several clients from Open Path. It is like pro bono work. That is useful. I also belong to several committees of non-for-profit organizations. So I use in the fundraising, and so I keep connected to the social work world, and independently of the private practice, and combine the private practice with some social. I mean, offering the type of therapy that I do, specialized things to people with no resources, is kind of very nice. Mm-hmm.
I think doing some volunteer stuff for agencies like the drug prevention community is really important. Offering consultation. Some of that you can charge, some of it you can't, but it's good to be out in the community and let people get to know you and how you work.
I was just going to say, I think because it's a flexible job, you have the time to kind of commit to other things that are important to you. I spend a lot of my time during the day, working with different organizations or with schools or giving back. I offer, like, once in a while I'll do like a free parent consult, or I try to give back as much as I can, and work with schools and agencies and to see how I can support them. I run free workshops all the time, so I think there's ways. I'm publishing a children's book actually on anxiety,
nice.
and it's coming out in the next month or two. And so I plan on doing free author visits for all the schools and just going in and educating the schools and parents about anxiety, and so I'm just trying to give as much as I can while also making a living,
That's interesting. No, go ahead.
Did you want, just really quickly. Doing everything they said, but also I think it's important for me, at least, because I've been, I do have only a private practice, to open up some slots for those people that can't, they can't really afford it. So what I do is I do a lot of employee assistance work, which a lot of companies, they connect with employee assistance programs like Magellan or Ceridian. These are huge. And what they do is they pay for their employees to get counseling. And so I do it for Ceridian, let's say, or one of these. And so these employees come, and I get very little money for it, which I don't care, because I love helping, these employees. But one of the things that I had the joy of getting involved with was Ceridian was doing something with Doctors Without Borders. Do you know what Doctors Without? And then I was the counselor that met with all of the surgeons and all of the people who went on mission. So I got to do the assessment and referrals for them. And I can't tell you, I was busting with joy because I love that organization. And, at the time, what was going on in Sri Lanka and Haiti and all of that. So you get to get involved. That's the beauty of being a social worker. You get your hands in everything. So you can do a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
In starting any kind of business, there's always some kind of risk involved, especially financially speaking. Can you talk a little bit more about the risk versus the payoff in terms of, business and administratively speaking?
I think for me it was, I talk about risk all the time, and it's funny that you said that, because I think sometimes you just have to, if you truly believe in yourself and your ability to, you just have to take the risk. It is a risky thing, especially if, for me, it was a little different. I had health insurance with my husband, so I was able to kind of go out and do this while I was on a childcare leave from my other job. So I think that the timing has to be right. It can be risky because especially if you're renting an office space and you're just waiting for your clients to come and then nobody's coming and you're paying rent. And so, but I think that it's absolutely worth it. The risk is worth the reward, I think. You just have to maybe have some savings or something, like to have a backup plan or do something in the meantime while don't just drop everything and start a practice. Like, you know, like I said, I was on childcare leave and I had a job to go back to when I started my private practice, but I never went back. So maybe have a little bit of a backup plan just in case.
Yeah, I've worked at different clinical groups, and my current situation is so nice because I'm renting an office in a group of a psychiatrist, a nurse practitioner, several other therapists, and when I started, they all started referring to me. So if you know people, it certainly is not a bad thing if you can arrange something like that. They even let me start a month with no rent, which was really nice. And then I, gradually,
Yeah.
it was very nice. But yeah, that kind of a situation's really good. So networking again with people who may have office space and see what you can work out.
I have an MBA, so I have kind of that mentality and that of not taking more risk than you need. So specialization, I think, is key. If you are different than the other 1,000 people that are in your neighborhood, then you will have the clients. Otherwise, it's hard. The competition is brutal. There are so many therapists in New York. So specialization is important.
You finished? Yeah. So one of the wonderful things about being a therapist is I think it's the least amount of a business that you'll invest in initially, right? So there's so many ways you could do it. You definitely want to ease into it. You don't want to go full-time right away. You have a couple of clients. You build on that while you're in an agency or another practice, or however you want to negotiate that. But you don't really have to invest except for office space, liability insurance, definitely continuing education, business classes. But I think it's important to just give it 3 to 5 years, they say, to really build your business. You need a good 3 to 5 years before you are, people know you, you're visible, you're branding, and then you have yourself a nice, hopefully full-time private practice the way you envision it.
That's very helpful. So we have time for one quick question and one quick response. So
That's what's I think she was.
Well, I think I can make it quick. So a few of you mentioned like crisis situations coming up or like suicidality, and I'm wondering, earlier in your private practice or even now, are there people that you consult with when you have to make decisions when there's like gray area, or do you find that in private practice you have to just kind of like make the best decision you can and maybe seek supervision after?
That's a good question.
Can I answer that? Yeah, just really quickly. For me, okay, so I don't know what it is now. I think it's 1,200 hours, but when I was graduating, it was 900 hours of supervision, right? 900 hours of supervision, I was like, this is nothing. It was like 5 years. It was such a long time. So you are constantly, even after you get your license, you want to be in supervision. I was in supervision for years, and it's wonderful. You get to work on all your counter transfers, but these are the things that your supervisor helps you with. You go to an agency, they teach you how to work with suicidality and all the crises. They have their different ways, and they're all wonderful. So you always have that support, especially in the first, I'm going to say 7 to 10 years of practicing, right?
Yeah, but when I started my private practice, to answer your question, no, I didn't have anybody. So that's why I just am stressing that, you could pay someone to be your supervisor, but I feel like when you're going into private practice, personally, I felt like I wasn't going to start a private practice if I needed a supervisor. Like, I wanted to be ready to have a private practice and not need to be supervised. I think that I have colleagues that I can run things off of, but I didn't have someone that I could call if someone was suicidal, which is scary,
I think it's really good to know your community resources. Where I live in Dutchess County, there's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week helpline.
Yeah.
I happen to know a lot of people who work there, but there are people in call, find out about, you know, what hospital beds are available or what they think of a particular situation. And there's some diversion resources. There's crisis residence that people can stay at when they're going through a crisis. And case managers that can help, you know, with some people. But to really utilize those and to let the patient know about them. I give everybody a card saying, look, if you can't reach me for any reason, here's a number to call. You can talk to somebody anytime.
So if you combine everything, like before starting a private practice, you need to know how to handle a suicidal client.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are not ready.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Through your agency work and your supervision, that's going to solidify that ability.
And you're working with a psychiatrist too. I mean, if your
Or not.
patient is depressed, hopefully he or she is with a psychiatrist, and you're constantly in contact. If there's an inkling that this person has any kind of depression, suicide.
Or you know how to spot it, like from
Yeah.
the beginning, even if there is no disclosure. You have to feel that you know how to act if that happens to you.